Hey guys, this video is going to be for our healthcare in Japan playlist. It's very unpleasant, visually and audibly unpleasant. So totally understandable if you decide to turn off now and go watch something else. Okay, because it's not going to get better. The reason I'm making the video though is, sorry. I told you, I warned you. I've noticed over the years that first-hand descriptions of the Japanese healthcare experience have been useful to some people. So that's why I'm making this video, okay? So I had heard that there was a big flu outbreak in Japan at the moment. Various reasons, I don't really care why, but we've been hearing a lot of talk of it. We've had friends and co-workers who've cancelled things because they had the flu. So I kept hearing this, and I always sort of laughed it off that, you know, the flu, geez, come on, make an effort, you know, it's only the flu. And then Monday this week, I started to get a cough, and then Monday night I had a fever of 39.8 or something, and really bad headache. The cough wasn't too bad then, just the occasional cough, but the main thing was this just burning up with fever and really bad headache, and just ratty timing. So some of you guys know we've had a pretty rough few weeks. There's been just one thing after another the last few weeks, and this week I actually had quite a bit of work lined up, which was really good because we've been sort of struggling to get enough work. And I had a really good week lined up. My diary looked really good. Okay, I'm going to make some money this week. Yeah, get some bills paid, you know. And this happened Monday night, and I knew straight away, Japan is really strict. If you get a temperature, and they were like this before COVID. This isn't just about COVID. Before COVID, they were the same. If your temperature goes over 37 degrees, then most workplaces and schools and kindergartens and most public places will have a rule that if you go over 37 degrees that you shouldn't be there. And that's been the case forever, you know, it's just what they're like. And so you're pretty well screwed. If your temperature goes over 37, you're not going anywhere, you know, because they just won't let you. So you can't work. My wife couldn't work. She's got a part-time job too, and she couldn't work this week either because she works with kids, and that kindergarten's rule is if someone in the family is sick with a fever, then she's not allowed to work. So straight away, Monday night when I realised, actually I'll tell you what happened first. Monday afternoon I started to shake, like you know when you're really cold and you start to shake and you can't stop. That happened first, and on Monday afternoon just kept shaking, could not stop. It was a terrible feeling. And then later I found out, took a temperature, and okay, 39.8 or whatever it was. But as soon as I found out I had a temperature, I thought, right, that's it, can't do anything. So all the work was cancelled, and my wife's work was cancelled, and that was the end of the game. So, so that was Monday night, and then Tuesday it went down to normal, and then it went up again Tuesday night. So Wednesday I gave up, went to the doctor. I hate going to the doctor. But this is the other part of why I'm making this video, is because the actual contact with the healthcare system. So my wife called the doctors and told her what my symptoms were. He said, probably influenza because there's a big outbreak at the moment. Come on down and come to the back door. And I'd never been to the back door, but usually you go into the reception area of the doctor's clinic and wait to be called from there, you know. But they actually have a back door that I didn't know about. Went around the back, and you open the little door, and there's a little genkan there, a little entrance, and then a little room, what do you call that for doctors? A little consulting room, all set up with a screen and a sort of a half screen so the doctor can still get at you underneath, and really nice little setup, really tight little setup. Didn't feel at all dodgy, you know. Or I thought it might feel like a leper or something, you know, but no, it was quite well set up. And then the nurse came in, and then the doctor came in, and really nice doctor. Actually, he could speak English too, which is really good, because when you're speaking about medical stuff, it's hard to know the terminology in Japanese, you know. And he came in, He listened to the symptoms and he said, yeah, it sounds like it's going to be influenza. And he said, but we'll do a test. And they've got a test that they're using at the moment that tests for influenza and for COVID together. So he got this, some of you guys have probably had it already, the antigen test up your nose. And I'd heard about it and I heard it was horrible, right? And it's every bit as horrible as it sounds, you know. So they ram that up the back of your nose, you know, and spin it around. To his credit, he did it fairly quickly, but very unpleasant, isn't it? Then they did the test. And within 5 minutes, they came back with the results, and it was influenza 1, he said. Influenza 1. And they both seemed really relieved. He said, if it's not one or the other, influenza or COVID, then we have to do more tests to find out what it is. And they seemed both pretty pleased with the fact that it was influenza. So that was interesting. Okay, so we left so we paid and did all the things we normally do, sitting there in that room, and then left via the back door. And then most doctors' clinics in Japan have a pharmacy, either next door or nearby, that is independent. There's usually no connection between the the doctor's clinic and the pharmacy, but obviously whenever the medical centre was established, someone's established a pharmacy across the street. This is really common, and quite often there's no other medical centres nearby or anything. It's just basically that pharmacy is pretty much surviving just on the customers, I guess, the patients that they're getting from the doctor's surgery. So this one's got the same thing. So go across the street, and the same thing. My wife went in, and they said, come to the back door, and went round the back door, and not quite as flash as a doctor's set up, but open the back door, little genkan, couple of seats, sit down, and so that was interesting. There's two things I didn't know. I didn't know pharmacies had that set up, and I didn't know doctors' clinics did either, so there's something new. And then the pharmacist came, and he had these little puffers, and he said, suck on it, suck it down, so draw it in, and hold it for 3 seconds, right? So he gave it to me, and I sucked it down and held it for longer than 3 seconds, and let it out, and it was a powder. It was a powder, and it's to kill the influenza apparently. And then he throws a switch on, or slides this little slide across, then gives it to you again, and you do it again, and do the same thing again, and suck this powder down. And then he pulled out another one, so I did 4 of those. Suck this powder down into your lungs, and then I gave tablets for painkillers, because the headache was just really annoying, you know, constant for 3-4 days. I've still got it now. This is the 4th day. I've still got it, but sorry guys, I'm not really with it, you know. So yeah, tablets for the fever and for the painkillers, but they're so weak. You know, the painkillers here are so weak. Some will remember from, you know, I spent 5 weeks in hospital a few years ago, you know, having some operations, and the painkillers they give you are so weak. The way they see it here is if you've got some sickness or some pain, that's just normal, and that you just have to endure it. Gaman suru, they say. Gaman suru, which is sort of like means endure. You just have to endure the pain, and that's the Japanese thinking about these things, and they're just so super conservative with the medicine, you know. And sure enough, I took the dose that I was supposed to take, and pretty much the headache didn't go anywhere, you know. So that's a frustrating thing. I mean, the Japanese healthcare system, as you're hearing from this story, is really, really good. But that one weakness is they're conservative, how conservative they are about drugs, you know. Because now and again when you get severe pain, you know, I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Just could not sleep because I was burning up hot and just constant pain, and just couldn't get comfortable, and just, you know, I'd sleep for a few minutes and then wake up again. Sometimes it felt like hours, and I look at the clock, it was an hour, you know, or 30 minutes. Oh, jeez, you know, went on and on. But, you know, the interesting things were, I mean, anything and everything about Japan, so I'm trying to give you the whole picture. First one is about the seriousness of this current round of flu in Japan. It's a shocker. Usually I'm bulletproof with stuff like this. I can just keep motoring on. You know, people are falling down around me, and I keep doing my thing because usually I'm pretty well bulletproof, but not this one. Really got me. The other thing is those interesting things about the little secret door at the back of the, wasn't apparently not a secret to other people. I just wasn't aware of it. So the back door of the clinic, and how good that was. You know, I thought they'd treat me like a leper. You know, I've seen things on the internet of people with COVID being treated in their cars. I've seen that here too, by the way, people being treated in their cars. The people will come out like they're tending to a nuclear disaster or something with all the gear on and come out and take tests in the car. I've seen that too. But this was so much better, you know. I didn't feel like a leper at all, you know. And then the one at the pharmacy too, that was interesting. And then the puffer thing, haven't experienced that before either. So I don't know if that did any good or not. It actually felt pretty good at the time, so I don't know if there's something in it that made me feel better. But so yeah, that's pretty much that whole story. There was one small complication in the middle. Some of you guys know I have a Japanese pilot license, and I have a buddy that owns a Cessna 172, and he likes me flying it for him, you know, and so now and again he'll call me up and say, let's go here or let's go there, and I'll get a chance to fly his aeroplane, which is really, really good. And I did my pilot medical last week, or 2 weeks ago, and just as part of the thing, you got to tell them if you've got any new diseases or anything, you know, any new sicknesses. So I told him I had Hashimoto. That's talked about that in another video. It's just a thyroid thing, and he'd actually identified it a year ago, or 2 years ago. He'd actually said, go get this checked, you know. And I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. I thought so I wrote it down, and he said, oh, Hashimoto. I said, yes. I said, you found that. You told me to go to that clinic, and you found that. Thank you very much. And I was all very light about it because I didn't think it mattered, because it has no symptoms. You know, the Hashimoto thing, I didn't know I had it because I was healthy and fine. I had no symptoms at all. The only thing I had was this enlarged thyroid, right? Or this thing growing on the thyroid. And so I had no symptoms, so I was fine. And then so when they identified this thing, they started to give me tablets, and they didn't have any side effects either. So I had no symptoms before, and I've got no symptoms now, so I was fine. So I thought he'd just go, oh yeah, that's fine. And he didn't. He said, oh, you know, oh, typical Japanese doctor, really super conservative, and oh, I don't know. So I had to go, last week I had to go off to Nagoya and get a certificate from the doctor in there to say that that I was in, I can't remember what they call it, it's got a word, it means like in good health sort of thing. So I had to go and get this from the doctor, and because I said to him I've got no symptoms, and they'd just done all the medical tests they do for pilots, you know, I've got to do that every year, and checked everything. And there was no problem with any of it, with any of me, you know. But I had to go get this thing from this guy in Nagoya, which was a pain. So I went and did that, brought it back and gave it to him, and he's still going. So I was supposed to give it to him myself this week, and because I couldn't go, could I? Because I was sick. You know, I had to go to the doctor, that clinic if you're sick. Ironically, so my wife took it to him, and he's still humming and hawing. So in amongst all this other stuff that never seems to end, just the last few weeks has just been one disaster after another, you know. And every time there's a light at the end of the tunnel and something else happens. So that's another complication, healthcare related, that we're waiting to see the result, whether he's going to approve my medical so I can fly. If he doesn't approve my medical, I can't fly airplanes. So, I mean, I only fly 3 or 4 times a year, or 5 times a year maybe, depending on how often this guy wants to go up in his 172. I can't afford to do anything else. I've just got to go when he wants to go. So I don't fly a lot, but I really like to go. You know, it's my favourite hobby. So if I can't do it for no particular reason, then it's a bit of a shame, isn't it? So anyway, there's the healthcare. Healthcare update, a mixture of good and bad in amongst that, isn't it? So you got to laugh, haven't you? Sometimes, you know, sometimes something bad happens, and then something bad happens, and then something bad happens, and you get to a point where you sort of, oh, I'm sick of this shit, and then you get to a point where it just becomes a joke. It's like, you got to be kidding, really? You know, the next thing happens, the next thing happens, the next thing happens. Everyone's the same, aren't we? You know, we always have times in our lives that are like that. Sometimes when you're down, it just keeps happening. Happens, doesn't it? we just got to be patient and know that it'll come back up again, you know, eventually. It has to, doesn't it? Has to. Anyway, that was it. So a couple of interesting things there about the healthcare system. In the big picture, it is good, despite the weak points that I mentioned. You know, it is a very good healthcare system. There's no doubt about it. Total cost for the going to the doctor and getting the medicine would have been about $30, something like that. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good system because the public insurance, health insurance, pays for most of it. You know. Anyway, I'm going to go and cough a lot now. Sorry. More. That's nothing. You should hear it when I'm not trying not to cough. More videos coming soon.